Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Monday, July 16th, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. The new president of the University of Arizona has been on the job for just a few days. And tonight you'll get to know her much more as she begins to implement her policies and ideas. Michael Chihak begins this in-depth interview with Dr. Ann Weaver Hart. She is the 21st president of the home of the Wildcats.
Why did you want to take this job here in Tucson?
The University of Arizona is one of the great universities of the world, ranked 50th internationally, clearly a leader in research, in instruction, a hub of activity in the state of Arizona, our traditional land-grant university with a tremendous historic mission, and it's an institution that it is a great honor to be a part of.
You were at Temple for 6 years. Your predecessor here, Robert Shelton, was in the presidency for 5 years. Are the tenures of university presidents getting shorter?
Well, it depends on where you are. There are still presidents who remain in office for a decade or more, but they're very rare. There are a lot of pressures, but there are a lot of opportunities. And if you work very hard with careful planning to bring your talents to the table, that kind of cycle of 6 to 10 years has become quite traditional in American universities. In some parts of the world, it's shorter. For instance, in many parts of Asia, presidents have term limits that are shorter than that. So I think it's an opportunity to give energy and strength and ideas, and then an opportunity for others to also be a part of that great planning.
You're a Westerner by birth, Salt Lake City, and by education, the University of Utah. Does being a Westerner give you any advantage, do you think, here at the University of Arizona?
Well, I think it was part of the draw, for sure. I love the West. We've lived in the Northeast for 10 years, and we're very excited to be back in the West. It's a part of who we are and how we became who we are. So Randy and I are thrilled to be back. I think the advantage is one of having a deep appreciation for the great desert environment of Arizona, the mountains, the culture. The southern Utah, northern Arizona desert has been of great interest to us our whole lives. And so the advantage is that we were already in love with the place, and being in love with the institution was the bonus.
Now, this institution and most institutions like it around the country, higher education in general, is under terrific financial pressure these days.
Absolutely.
What is your take on that? How do you see that going?
Well, as you articulated, especially the great public universities are under pressure because of the increasing demand of entitlement programs in state budgets. Higher education has had a decreasing proportion of state expenditures over the last 1 to 2 decades, especially under pressure since 2008, as you know. I think that the trend of dramatic decreases in state appropriations may have mitigated somewhat, but the trend for the need for multiple sources of revenue to support the great enterprise is a long-term trend, and we're going to all have to be better at reducing our overhead costs and increasing the proportion of our resources spent on our core mission so that we can prosper in the future. It's a different financial model than we've been used to basically since the 50s.
So does that mean public-private partnerships or other things that we don't even know about yet?
Yes.
Such as?
Such as revenue coming from tech transfer, the ability to develop programs that are short-term, high-intensity, that bring in revenue from certificate programs or professional programs, helping our students become better consumers of higher education so that they are able to plan their 4 years, so it is 4 years, and that they improve their degree completion and their time to degree so that they're successful with more careful planning. I like to tell undergraduates that they need to be as careful at planning their 4 years of college as they intend to be in planning their retirements, because they will have pretty equal impacts on their prosperity and ability to achieve their goals.
How, in fact, do you see the financial changes affecting the academics at the university? You talked a little about the students, but what's going on the faculty and research levels?
Well, in research, of course, it becomes increasingly important to seek external sources of funds. The $600 million plus a year that the University of Arizona faculty bring in grants and contracts has a tremendous impact on research, but it also has a tremendous impact on the economy of our region and our state. Those $600 million are spent on people and products, and they're citizens of Tucson and the region, and it's really a critical part of our economy as well as our intellectual and research lives. I do believe that we'll need to be increasingly competitive in securing extramural funding, and we will need to broaden our sources of that funding. We've traditionally relied on federal agencies. We hear a lot about corporate-sponsored research, and we're going to have to find ways to make sure that we protect our traditional values while we also accept funding from other sources. That's a critical impact on our research.
There are those who say, including some on this campus, that the university system in the nation is under siege, not only because of the finances that we've talked about, but for cultural and political reasons.
Oh, I think that's true.
How do you see that?
I think that's absolutely true. I was on a conference call for the Pac-12 presidents last week, and my greeting to my new colleagues, was, congratulations, we hear we're an endangered species. Those pressures are going to continue to grow as we ask ourselves over a new period of reflection, what is a higher education in our current culture and environment? Do we define it in the same ways we have over the decades with Carnegie credit hours and certain numbers of hours for a bachelor's degree? Or do we develop new models for defining education at the higher level and its interaction with the other ways we learn and with our lives?
It's been 2 weeks since the Supreme Court of the United States made a landmark decision about Arizona's controversial immigration law known as SB 1070. It permits law enforcement officials to question the immigration status of people they suspect are not in the country legally, and that is causing concerns about racial profiling and other issues. Fernanda Echavarri has reactions from Tucson's police chief and the Mexican consulate, which is getting hundreds of calls from residents and visitors.
Isaías Nogués is the political affairs representative at the Mexican consulate in Tucson. He says the Mexican government was pleased with the Supreme Court's decision to strike down the parts of the law that would have made it a crime to be in the country illegally. He says it shows that federal law trumps state law in terms of immigration.
That's a good point for the Mexican government. We are concerned about the part that held the 2B section.
That part requires local law enforcement to question a person's immigration status if there's reason to believe they're in the country illegally. Nogués says the concern of the Mexican government is that this could lead to racial profiling
and violation to human rights. So our duty now is to monitor what is going to happen when the decision finally comes into effect here in Arizona. So our duty is to monitor, to try to protect the rights of our people regardless of immigration status.
He says in the last 2 weeks, the Mexican consulates in Tucson, Phoenix, Nogales, Douglas, and Yuma have received many calls from Mexican citizens living in Arizona.
People are concerned. They don't know if they are legally or undocumented here in this country. They have the same question. Okay, it is a matter of racial profiling. I have my proper documents. I have visa. I am resident of this country. What is going to happen? What should I do if a cop comes and asks for my documents?
Nogués says the Mexican consulate has a close relationship with law enforcement agencies in Tucson and with city government. Tucson Police Chief Roberto Villaseñor said after the ruling that he worries about resources and training for law enforcement statewide. He says the law, as it is now, would take resources away from local safety concerns to deal with immigration.
In Tucson alone, there's 36,000 times a year that we arrest people where we give them a citation and allow them to leave the scene. That could be a shoplifting arrest, a disorderly conduct, a suspended driver's license, speed greater than 21 miles an hour, DUI arrests, a variety of different events. With the provision that was upheld, the way the law is written now, we're supposed to call a Border Patrol agent, an ICE agent, or 287G officer, and those are the only three acceptable means where we can then release a person after they verify their status.
Shortly after the Supreme Court came out with the ruling on June 25th, the Mexican government's Office of International Relations in Arizona printed a 3-page brochure titled Updated Guide to the Law, known as SB 1070. The brochure includes a summary of the law, the part that was upheld, and the parts that were struck down. It also answers the questions: what precautions should I take, and what are my rights? Noguez says the Mexican consulate is handing out those brochures and holding community forums with local organizations to share information about what to do when interacting with local police.
This is basic in the message of the Mexican government here in Arizona. They have to respect the law of this country. They have to respect traffic law. They have to respect every kind of law that could lead to have any kind of problem with authorities.
There's a toll-free number on the brochure where people can call with questions. Noguez says the call center receives thousands of calls per week, and that allows the Mexican consulate to get a feel for what people are talking about in the community and what questions need to be answered. Consulates from Central American countries in Arizona, including the Consulate of El Salvador in Tucson, are in constant communication about the law. But Noguez says by far the busiest is the Mexican consulate.
For sure is that the largest number of Hispanic people in Arizona are from Mexican origin.
Noguez says it's difficult to measure the impact of SB 1070 because there is no data to show how many people have left Arizona since 2010. But numbers do show that there has been a loss of business since then.
Arizona and Mexico are not just partners or friends in terms of immigration. We don't deal just with immigration. We deal with trade, with business, with culture, with education. So we have to talk with other stakeholders in these topics. It's complicated.
When the Senate bill was signed into law in 2010, the Mexican government filed a brief as friend of the court asking a federal judge to strike down the law, because Mexican officials were concerned it would allow racial profiling by giving local police the authority to create a description of what an illegal immigrant looks like. Although the Supreme Court upheld one part of the law, U.S. District Court Judge Susan Bolton still has to make a decision on how to enforce that part of the law. Noguez says, until then, all the Mexican government can do is keep people informed.
Hi, I'm Fred Willard. Join me for Market Warriors. 4 seasoned pros battle the clock and each other to capture the most valuable finds and make a profit at auction. From the makers of Antiques Roadshow, it's Market Warriors.
Tonight at 9 on PBS 6.
Many people ride their bicycles for leisure or transportation, perhaps just a few miles when necessary. But imagine going on a bicycle journey around the world as part of a fundraiser for people in a distant land. Our next guest is doing just that. Elvis Munisi is embarking on the trip of a lifetime in hopes of helping students in the African nation of Tanzania. Elvis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tommy.
So what is this trip all about? You started in South America and you want to go around the world on your bicycle?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I start in Argentina and this January, and the plan is to go around the world, going back home. So every single kilometer bring me close to home.
So you are originally from Tanzania?
Yeah, I was born and I'm living in Tanzania.
So you're helping people in your country. Tell us a little bit about that project, please. What is this all about, this fundraiser?
Yeah, this project is a project which coming within myself because I just grown up in a little bit of a challenging society whereby you don't have enough money to finish your studies and those kind of things. But see, I had this inspiration of nature inside me because of the place I grown up and those kind of things. So I trained in ecology, but I've never had a chance to do like a university. But I have been working with the organization like a SAT program, which is a student coming from abroad and training for the ecology in East Africa. I work with the National Geographic student expeditions and as the assistant researcher. So in that case, you have been involved in the different kind of things. But the opportunity of doing much changes or contributing directly in conservation in my country is limited because of the education. And I have been traveled for 14 countries in Africa, and I find out like a lot of the young people, they don't have the chance to get the education. So I decided that I will do something to support myself and the rest of the African young people.
So you want to raise funds for the Conservation Resource Center and for other students who are trying to study ecology or environmental issues. Why do you think this is important for you to do?
I think this is very important because we have these natural resources, and most of African countries, particularly in Tanzania, we are not industrial developing country. We have these natural resources, which is like we depend on them directly for agriculture, for making foreign money, and those kind of things. But apparently, most of these natural resources are not managed by local people, and then we are facing a lot of problem because of like environmental degradation or environmental problem because the people that doesn't know how to manage their own resources. So I met these young people who are motivated and inspired to do something, but they don't have a chance to do that. So there is where I started to construct this idea and this project of doing a fundraising to support them, something which can be sustainable. Even when I'll finish it, this will be passed on and passed on.
So you are on a bicycle traveling thousands upon thousands of miles. You have a jersey here. What do you want us to tell us about this?
This is my cycling sheds, which it's indicating the project Chile to Kili. It's showing the map where I came from because you find a lot of people that doesn't know. Yeah, they ask, where are you from? I say, from Africa. Oh, okay, it's close to Jamaica. I say, no, it's Africa. It's it's another continent. So yeah, we had a sponsor. We call it Mountain Boa. It's from here in America, and they sponsor me this cycling sheds, and my webmaster help with the artwork, and then they produce them.
So what was the journey, or how has the journey been so far? Not easy. I was reading a little bit about your experiences in South America.
Exactly. There is a lot of challenges as expected, but for most of them I was already prepared with like a challenge of the long days on the road, the mountains, sleeping, and the weather and all those kind of things. But the other challenge which come within is like the challenge of authority, nationalism, whereby you're facing a lot of challenge to get a visa. When I did a research of my project, I could not get enough information regarding the visa because you don't find a lot of African people traveling abroad, and most of the countries they have all the rules or law regarding African travelers. So you're facing a lot of challenge, the requirements beyond the ability to reach them.
So what do you hope to be? When do you hope to finish, and then what would you like to do next?
I'm looking forward to finishing this project. From now, it's almost about 1 year and a half, and after finish that, I'll start my training in like a first degree in ecology, and I'll be working back home as a naturalist, ecologist, and I'll keep on teaching. I'm really inspired to teach and pass on the knowledge to the young people in Africa.
And then, what do you say to people who come to you and say, wow, this is crazy? Is it a crazy idea? What do you think about it overall?
Yeah, I agree with them. The first time it's crazy, but it's not all crazy as you can look overall, because you can imagine cycling for 100 and 150 kilometers per day. It's almost crazy. But I have a motive, I have an inspiration behind it. It's not me pulling that pedal. It's like a things which I have inside me, inspiring me to do this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, very good luck to you. And then people can follow you on what website again?
My website page is called www.chiletokili.com, and there I keep a blog, and there you can find more information about how to get involved. You want to join me in Russia, or you want to do a contribution or something like that.
Okay, Chile, the country in South America, to Kilimanjaro in Africa. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Americans have been talking about the goal of energy independence for decades, and one issue that often comes up is the possibility of harvesting energy from the sun, a free and abundant resource, especially in places like Arizona. But making this technology prevalent and affordable is a challenge, although progress is being made. Joining us to talk about this is Dr. Roger Angel. He is the director of the UA Steward Observatory Mirror Lab. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So if you could tell us a bit about what's been going on there insofar as telescopes and how you are now exploring other possibilities when it comes to solar energy.
Well, you know, the university has been doing telescopes for a long time, and we've got pretty good now at figuring out how to make mirrors and glass and focus light and point things at the stars. And so one of the things that you've mentioned with solar energy, that energy is free, right? The source is free. But actually harvesting it and turning it into electricity, at the moment, it's too expensive to be competitive with conventional generation. So if a utility wanted to switch to solar energy right now, it would be paying 2 or 3 times, or would have to charge 2 or 3 times as much. So the bad news is that it's 2 or 3 times too expensive, and the good news is it's only a factor of 2 or 3, at which point there would be a huge transition to solar energy. So what's attracted me is its energy independence, as you say, but also, you know, I worry about climate change and carbon dioxide, and obviously solar gets you off that completely.
So what about this $1.5 million grant that was recently received? What happens with that? Where does it get focused?
Well, it follows on from some work we've been doing for the last several years. And we've had other support, particularly from Science Foundation Arizona and the DOE. And with that, we've taken a good step towards taking Mirror Lab know-how and making solar mirrors. And we now have made mirrors that are of very high quality, but we just use an existing furnace that's pretty slow to make them. And so the main thing that will be supported by the new grant is making a faster furnace that will make this quicker, and also getting these mirrors out into existing plants so that we can actually see in something that's already functioning, right, how we can make it better with better mirrors.
And what is the highest cost right now of the photovoltaic cells, and how does that price come down? What do you need to do in order to make that happen?
Well, there's actually, when you make electricity on the roof, you use photovoltaic panels, right? A standard solar panel is photovoltaic. Quite a lot of utility electricity is made not with photovoltaics at all, but where you focus the light onto basically something black that gets real hot. And then you take that heat energy and use it as you would burning coal or even nuclear to run a turbine and make steam. So the award that we've got from the DOE is actually not specifically for photovoltaics, but it's more for mirrors that could generate heat for utility scale generation.
All right, and right now there's sort of a sample that people can see at Bear Down Gymnasium. Is it visible, or behind Bear Down? Is it visible, or do people have to look for it somehow?
Yeah, at the moment so our first big effort to make solar mirrors is behind Bear Down Gym. And there we have mirrors. In that case, we've got a hybrid, so we're focusing the light with the mirror, but instead of making heat at the focus, we make electricity directly, not with a usual photovoltaic panel, but with little tiny, very efficient photovoltaic cells. So yeah, our mirrors are already running, making electricity, and the new effort that's just been funded, as I say, will be to use the mirrors to make heat.
Okay, and how excited are you about this for future use? Do you think we'll get to the point where it does come down the price?
I do, and I'm beginning to think now that actually, you know, it's taken, for most of my career, I've understood what the needs of astronomy really were. And so in the Mirror Lab, we've made mirrors for actually unique telescopes that can take advantage of the technology. It's taken me a few years now to understand what optics in solar energy, what would be the best. But I think now we're really getting there, right? And I'm beginning to understand how we can take everything we've learned from astronomy mirrors and really put it in the right place for focusing light. So I think there's a good chance that, over the next 5 or 10 years, that maybe this factor of 2 or 3 gap can be closed. And that's huge for Arizona. If you look at the whole of Europe, even if you go to southern Spain, the solar resource, the amount of sunshine they get, is not what Arizona gets. So the United States has in Arizona in the Southwest a huge resource. And I think, hopefully we can get there and exploit it.
And we were talking prior to the interview about the role that students are playing in all of these endeavors. What would you like to say about the students?
Well, I've been hugely blessed in the group now. With a new group, it takes a little time, right? But at this point, both in graduate students and undergraduates, that's the power that's making this research go. And it's such a joy to be able to, work with really bright students, and they get a huge amount out of it. That people want to see this go, and so it's one of the most attractive things, say, for grad students in optical sciences, working in solar where you can really make a difference and work on the absolute cutting edge of research. But we've also had undergraduates here, and I've had one undergraduate who, what I love the most, he comes to me and says, well, I can do it better than how you thought of doing it, right? And this one actually did.
Okay. Well, you learn from everybody, right?
Right.
Okay, Dr. Roger Angel, thank you very much for being here, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, the healthcare law is controversial, but the need for medical care is real. We'll visit a clinic that has been helping tens of thousands of people. A community activist plans to ride his bicycle around the world to raise funds for residents in Africa. Desert tortoises need your help, and you'll learn about a studio and gallery that is being honored in southern Arizona. I'm Tony Paniagua from all of us at Arizona Public Media. Have a great night.